All right, that's all I got from a news perspective here, guys. Let's now move into the thing that we should not let people make people wait for anymore, and it's their favorite segment of the week for many of our traders here at Team Tackle. It's Coach Frank's charts as we round out the week. Frank's done his scanning to get prepared for our weekend options reports and stock reports. We have those meetings as a team internally here in a couple hours after the bell, and we build those things for our pro members. But Frank shares some of those charts here on the show here in kind of anticipation of that. Frankie, what'd you find here today, and what do you got, my friend?
Ooh, I got some interesting ones. At least I find them interesting. I want to start with when Matt was talking Rita, I almost threw him out there, but I figured I'll wait till the end. That's how patient I can be, and that's American Homes for Rent, AMH, has held out stronger than the sector. Very clean little top end breakout play, right? Again, it's a REIT, so take that for whatever you will. But I really do like the relative strength. I really like that we've got a clean consolidation pattern developing for us. We don't have any resistance looming above us to push us down. Potentially just a nice clean little breakout, nothing fancy here over in the real estate space. Maddie, what do you think? Did you find anything in real estate
I
that
did. I found two. I found two in the REITs. One of them was AMH. I love the cleanliness of the potential breakout here, and you know how we get down and tackle. We love clean breakouts. There's probably not a technical pattern we love more than a clean breakout.
probably not?
Right? And when you look, excuse me, and when you look at the intraday channel, yeah, you got some chop up here to the north of the breakout on the overnight action, but nothing really within the day. You look at a fairly clean breakout right here between 39.45 and 39 and a half. I do like that potential breakout. I like the cleanliness of it as well. The only other one I found in that space that I did want to have a little bit of a conversation was CubeSmart, and a little bit of a similar type analysis, slowing momentum, consolidation, high base type breakout, but I like them both. I had them both down. AMH was probably the one I like a little bit more than Cube, but I did want to get everybody
Yeah, I
else's
could.
take on Cube.
Yeah, I could see what you like about Cube. And you know me, I hate picking favorites. So I'm not going to. I think just the quick visual AMH
Yeah,
looks, it just stands out for the cleanliness. But I mean, these
I'm
guys
with
are
you.
really close, right? They're very clean as well. And a very interesting. I think it might come down, quite honestly, to risk to reward would be probably the determining factor to me. Which one do I felt I was getting the better risk to reward on? They'll probably be pretty close. I doubt one's going to give me 4-1 and the other one's giving me 2-1.
No, they're
But
going to be tight against.
it might be 227 to 212, right? And every dollar's a dollar. I'd rather have than not have. So I
Mhm.
could see what you like about those guys.
Yeah, and
Either one.
I do like the relative strength going into a potential breakout on Cube a little bit more than on AMH, but again, I'm splitting hairs here. I like them both.
Mhm.
Yeah. Anything stand out one way or the other to you, Tim?
Yeah, there is actually a subtle thing, but it's like literally splitting hairs. I think we've said it three times because that's kind of what it feels like. AMH has a subtle momentum change where Cube doesn't, and so if I'm gonna have a tiebreaker here, I'm going with Cube because I think the momentum is still intact there, where AMH is very subtle. It's not a big deal. It doesn't change the trend here, and there's still a trade, but I think that is a subtle thing that it would put me towards Cube.
Fair enough.
A
Fair
swing
enough.
trader might lean to Cube, where the position trader might lean more
There
to
you
the
go.
consistency of AMH.
Yeah, that's probably a good way to think about it too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
REITs, couple of REITs on the
Couple of
radar.
interesting
All
reads
right.
that for sure. Matt and I talked a little bit about this one in pre-production, and that's LYV, Live Nation.
Yeah, both of us had this one on the list.
That's a Russell 2000 right there.
It's pretty interesting
Uh,
looking chart, I thought. And after pulling back into that 50-day moving average, we really fired off on the nice volume spike back into resistance. And I think it did us a little bit of a favor by taking a few days to hang around this resistance level. This is a pretty significant, resistance zone, right? I mean, it's all year long, big old
Hmm.
cup and handle. I would argue personally that you want to make sure that we get a close above our resistance in a scenario like this. That's just
mhm.
my rule, of course. So exactly where that would need to be, hard to tell for sure, but I do think a break of this would be a very intriguing opportunity from a technical point of view.
I definitely agree here. I'd like the 3 days of consolidation. We certainly could see a couple more days. You could see a couple more weeks. You just never know when you're fighting up against that resistance channel when the battle's going to be won. But I do like the zone, and it could break out at any point. So yeah, I like it. I like the multiple time frames on it as well. You got a daily price action that's starting to show momentum. You got a weekly price action that's consolidation. Once that breaks out, all of a sudden that gets way clean, way fast, and it looks like a stone throw to 100.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah.
Volume is a secondary indicator for me, but it's also an important one. Matt, the volume characteristics look pretty favorable for the bulls here as well, don't they?
Yeah, they do when you're seeing increasing volume as it's coming into the breakout channel, but I'm not surprised in that capacity. It also had some news there. It's these days right here. You see the consolidation volume there, not exactly a positive thing. What you want to see, obviously volume does support the bull thesis here, but what you want to see is that volume bars start to go up and up and up as we approach that breakout channel. And so on the breakout is what you really want to see, the increasing volume.
Gotcha. Interesting candidate there, Frankie. All right, what we got next?
All right, I want to look at plug, PLUG.
Oh my goodness, Frankie, Lord Almighty!
I've been stealing your list.
You've been just did you?
I stole your list while you weren't
stole
looking.
my list.
While you
He's
weren't
got
looking.
the knock list, Tim.
Hey, listen, great technician. See the
He's got the knock list.
What do they call that? Overlapping consensus or something? Anyway,
I
Just
thought
good taste,
I thought I
right?
might get a gem here with plug, Frankie, but no. There you go,
Yeah,
buddy.
well,
hey,
good.
I had
good,
plug on my list too.
good job, Tim.
Yeah,
we'll
I'm
give
sure
you
you
2
did.
gold stars.
Attaboy,
See, Tim has learned how
Tim.
this game works.
Tim,
Finally,
you're such a good technician.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I like what you're doing, Tim. But what I really like is where we're at on plug. Now on plug, we got to break that resistance. I don't think this is a
100%.
pullback play. If you were gonna play the pullback, you probably already took that opportunity last week. I have a hard time seeing how that develops into something at least that I would like. But if we can break through that resistance and we can, somewhere, and that's fine that it's pulled back. I just want to see it create a higher low than it did last time, right? Wherever that might be, just be higher, preferably be, right in these moving averages. That'd be great. But it doesn't matter too much to me if that's not how it plays out. We do need to break out of that. But that is a really clean breakout. That's also, for what it's worth, if you care, it's going to give you the 20 weekly too, most likely on the break itself. And with reversals, I say this a lot, and at least for me, that I mean it when I say it. It's just, we've got lots of upside and lots of fights, and you don't know that we're going back to 75, right? But some reversals do that. Every one of them could do it, but we've got several fights along the way. But I think we have a pretty clear run beyond that initial break, Matt, which is the only one I'm really, really care about, right? As I'm building the trade out, and if it wants to run more, great. Until we approach that 39, 38, 40. I don't know exactly where you would put it, but it's definitely a zone, I think, more than a number.
Yeah. I started laughing a little bit on my end because we're like, 70. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure there's traders out there like, this is going to 70 and then the moon. That's not, that's not us. I kind of like 37.5 by 40 here.
Yeah.
Speak for yourself. I got 70 as my first target, 100 for my second. But I'll take 37.50 under 38.
That's double my target.
I'll take 38 as well.
I think you got to look over here left of the chart when you're fighting these potential reversals, and reversals can be absolutely gems, right? They can be beautiful, beautiful little gems. But they don't typically just recover in the same type of speed that they did it the first time. It's a little bit more slow and methodical, I would say.
Pull back, have a fight, win.
Because we've seen this, and you're not going to do it again, right? Typically,
most likely.
Right. So typically, what you do is you break out, you find resistance, you consolidate, you run to the next level of resistance, right? And so you break out here, and I do like the cleanliness of that breakout there, Frankie. And I certainly agree with you that although the pullback would be tempting, the double top would nullify that, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you're looking at this as a breakout, and the pullback you're just seeing is resetting the run into the breakout is all you're really seeing that as. It's
I'd
the
agree.
breakout, the breakout, the breakout. Target, you're looking left of the chart. You're looking at 37.5 by 38. You do got some chop at 40. I do agree with you that it's more like zone of T1, 38 to 40, zone of T1. Once you get above 40, you got some love potential at that point. You got
Right.
some love, right? You got 48 to 50 at that point. So, but I like the trigger there. I like the trade. I like it.
I do too. And on these reversals, I always look at the second target's the goodie, right? The first one, that space I expect. If we break out, I can't see any logical, technical reason why we don't work into that area. You know, but
go ahead.
If we win that fight, that's where it gets exciting, right? That's where it gets exciting. But we can be in it.
And also,
before.
Frankie, that's where it got exciting last time.
True enough.
Right? It got chop here. It got exciting here. So, man, maybe we do repeat the last time again. But again, I do think 37.5 by 40 in that range is that T1.
Yeah, I think so too. I think you have to be satisfied with that being where it maybe loses, right? It's tough. You win one fight, you get another one, and you very well might lose the first one, or And so I think you do need to be satisfied with your risk reward in that zone, wherever you're putting that number.
Yeah, sure. and again, using an ATR, I mean, 38 by 40 is a $2 range, and the ATR is right now around 2, so it's right in that zone.
Yep. So, Tim, anything you'd like to add?
No, I like it. In fact, there's a couple of thoughts I have, but I'm not going to go too far off on them. One is blow off tops, because I'm looking back at the left of the chart.
Mm-hmm.
Blow off tops that were explosive last year or early this year in some of these really popular names. And Plug Power is a hugely popular name for those underbelly type of stock investors, right?
Mm-hmm.
When they get blown up, it takes a long time for characteristics to come back. Now, this is a really, really good chart to teach how pivot relationships really, truly do help you identify trend.
Yeah.
It took time on the downtrend. Then we finally put in a low, finally put in a higher pivot low. Then we put into a higher pivot high. Now we're ready for a breakout, waiting for confirmation. I think it's qualified for reversal for sure. I like it. But I think there's lessons you could teach here as well, just in terms of trend.
Yeah, there usually is. There's almost always a lesson that we can learn if we can learn it, right? So easy or hard sometimes.
It goes the same way. If I stare at this chart long enough, I'm going to see everything.
It is true.
Right.
That is true.
Yeah,
that is true. All right, well, let's see a couple more here. OPCH, option care. Listen, with a name like that, what's not to love? We're traders, Tim. Come on now.
To tickle our fancy there.
Option Care Health Inc.
I'm already out.
I'm out.
Listen.
It's too complicated. Healthcare, you got to make my healthcare easy, Frank.
Just call it option, and it'll feel a little bit better. It'll feel a little bit better.
All right, I'm back in. I'm back in.
There you go.
Mavericks in. Let's go.
These ones were interesting to me because it feels like I've never ran into them before. So I thought, well, there's lots of things I run into these days that I'd never ran into before. But when I look back at their history, I mean, they've got a long storied history of kind of being back and forth, going all the way back into like the late 90s or something. Just spent their whole life in this huge trading range. We're actually recently coming off of the bottom of that trading range. And recently, I'm looking at a weekly chart right now. So not that recently, but that's where we did find our lows. Got a little breakout play developing here, just on a little cheap little stock, right? A pretty easy breakout pattern in my mind, at least. There's not, again, they've been really range bound since forever, but there's really not a lot of big resistance for a little while on these characters. So I'm just looking at these guys as a little bit of a breakout here, Matt. Now I'm trying to sell you. The name scared you off. I understand how it happens, but you're better than that. Little bit of a break. We're having that little bounce off of that 9 here today. We do have a wick that we might have to navigate or not, depending on that. But I guarantee I'm gonna like my risk to reward on this setup. If I can like the setup, I know I'm gonna like my risk to reward.
No, I don't like the name of their company, and it's clouding my judgment on the stock. I don't like options in healthcare. It's ridiculous. Now I can't even make a choice. I don't like options when I go and make a decision at a restaurant. You bring me food, I'll eat food. Let's just do it like that. So
I appreciate that. See, now you're letting Tim get in your head. This was
Tim's getting in my head.
Thing.
Tim,
I blame you for
this. Let me put it like this. The entire time you were talking, I was trying to discount it for one reason or the other, right? I was going through momentum, trends, volatility. I even went to volume, and I even went to the intraday to try and find a reason I can't. The only thing I can do is point to the wick and void and veto to the wick, but that would just me using the wick as a way to veto that symbol. So I'm not going to do it, Frankie. I like the momentum here, and I like the potential trigger above 22. It stands out to me. And I looked at a lot of healthcare stocks. There's not a lot of healthcare stocks that stand out to me. You look at, when I was looking at this entire space, and let me get my list so I can do it some justice here, because I only had a couple stocks on the list to kind of compare it against. AZN, Frankie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, potential AZN, right? Pretty fairly clean trigger right here north of 59. Good trend. The only thing you don't like about it, this ADR.
Yep, they're an ADR, right. So you're going to have to deal with some gappiness.
You got to deal with the gappy stuff. Moderna, nice little potential trigger, continuation trigger there. Kind of like that.
10 times as expensive though.
Yes,
some people out.
Yes, and random and volatile and crazy sometimes. CGen, right? Company, fundamental company, nice liquidity in their options, like the potential reversal and like the potential secondary trigger after the reversal above 160 there. But again, I'm looking at that and I do like Seattle Genetics. But again, you're still staring at that 200-day moving average there.
Yeah.
So I come back to
if the wick scares you on options, the 200 better scare you on
and that's my point, right? That's my point. There's things I like in healthcare, but there's always something to bring me off of healthcare. And the only thing I'm looking at, and I'm sorry, Frankie, give me the symbol again.
OPCH.
OPCH. When you're looking at OPCH, the only
thing I'm going to bring them up a lot.
I know you are, and I know I'm going to have to get to know them, and so I'm just going to start familiarizing myself with them now. That wick's a little concerning. I would like a little detail on what happened on that day, but outside of that, Frankie, I do like the potential trigger above 22, and I do like the momentum building here.
So yeah, I mean, they really jumped out to me, and I was surprised.
I saw him too when I scanned. I saw him too, but I'm not familiar with the company, and so I automatically moved past them.
Sure. And I almost
we do that all the time, right?
Well, yeah, I have a very specific scan, so anything that starts popping up in the the volume profile, because a lot of times that's what it is, right? Is their volume wasn't there, and then it is all of a sudden. So I run into things like that a lot, but usually they're relatively newer IPOs or things that, have went and become underbelly darlings and things of that nature. So
see, in my scan was literally any stock 2 billion plus in the healthcare sector. And so when I scan like that, I really scan for things I'm identifying. I scan technically, but I also scan for things I'm familiar with, right? That their history,
sure, 100%,
their patterns, and you're familiar with their cycles and whatnot. I again, a little bit running on this one, but I do like the momentum here.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I thought they were a very interesting chart. I'm definitely going to have them on my list. They'll be on the Frank report going into next week. I can't promise they'll be on the stock report going into next week. I'm going to
never promise a healthcare stock.
Their name. No, you can't.
You can never promise a healthcare stock on the reports.
You can't. Just a couple of more interesting patterns. Yeah. Visa broke cup and handle, little breakout. Tech with the finance kicker. Broke yesterday, didn't really do much with itself, fighting the good fight here today. But I thought that cup and handle pattern was very, very pretty personally, and obviously never going to be unhappy about a cup and handle breakout.
That weekly looks sexy too.
That weekly looks fantastic. So keep an eye on Visa. A nice continuation would be all right.
That one. Multiple time frame analysis on that 100%, one as well.
Yeah.
And while the financial sector getting a little bit of momentum on the backs of the banks passing the stress test here today, and obviously the expectation of increasing dividends, stock buybacks, need some time to really kind of shake out some of that recent price volatility. Visa here is one of the few in the space that really looks primed, ready to rock and roll for next week. I like the find here.
So very, very nice looking chart for sure. And then Autodesk, big old symmetrical triangle on Autodesk. Matt's favorite pattern. We all know how much he likes.
I already drew it for you.
Oh, did you? Okay, I'm looking at my own. I got to see that. So yeah, I mean, it's right there, right? The lines are eye of the beholder. What I'm looking for here on Autodesk is one of two things. Because I don't think you could say that it has or hasn't broken that trend line. It's right there. Your line is yours and mine is mine, but they're a little biased, right?
We know
based off of what
lines.
we want. Your line.
We know who's got the lines.
So I'm looking for one of two things happening here. If this is in fact the break to the upside, I think it's a very difficult trade. I think we let it break and pull back into that descending zone trend line and look for the pullback as an opportunity. So this is that would take a little time to develop. If this trend line isn't yet broken and it holds and pushes us back down, we're right back into that triangle, which is what I like. I'd like one more swing to the downside. I might be a little optimistic and hoping for that, but a pull back into the downside following a run, giving us a little bit better risk to reward ratio. I mean, it's hard not to appreciate. I mean, it's hard to make a case that maybe this isn't the break of it. I could definitely see people. I think if you made me say has it or hasn't it, I would say it has, but I wouldn't feel great about that. But I really like where this pattern is, and whether it's the trade, like Matt says a lot. I know Matty, he doesn't like to enter on that break, right on the break of those triangles, just not his style. But I know that he likes to look for the next trade after that, right? He likes to look for the next trade after that, whether it's a retracement or the breakout. Such a long developing pattern. I think you have to have it on your radar.
Who doesn't love overextended breakouts when you're fighting against short-term resistance levels that are horizontal? Come on, everybody.
Well, Tim doesn't, but he's got a heart of stone. I think we've already determined that.
But yes, Frankie, I'm not the biggest fan of triangles in terms of symmetrical triangles. Let's be very, very clear there. I love ascending triangles. I love other types of triangles. There are multiple different triangle patterns. It is the symmetrical triangle where you have an increase in support and a decrease in resistance. As a trader, I like utter domination. As a human being, I like utter domination.
Well, why are you a Dolphin fan then?
I'm a hard shark. Well done. Well done. Well done. When I did choose to be a Dolphin fan, they were 13-0. And
okay, there you go.
Loyal list.
And you were young. You were a young kid, so you didn't know any better.
I was young and impressionable there, Frankie. But I'm going to take that lump after the bear talk I gave earlier today. But I love those types of technical patterns where there's only one clear movement forward that you can see in your eye, right? Mm-hmm. And when you're dealing with symmetrical triangles, I could just see too many probable outcomes here. Where it gets clean for me, and this is just me, this isn't everybody, guys. It's just how I approach technical analysis. But as you're overextended here, I see two potentials here on Autodesk. One is the violation of the pattern established in a higher level of resistance that would come into one of these horizontal pivot points, and then the high base or the snapback. Or two, you do have two different trend lines you're working up against. A nice retracement coming back down to firmly establish a bullish retracement after a potential reversal. I like that formation as well. But in either one of those formations, you're outside the symmetrical triangle formation with enough time to where you're actually looking at a specific trend in a specific pattern.
Sure. And see, I'm on the other side. I don't think the entry is the issue on the symmetrical patterns. I think the difficulty comes to the risk to reward side, because we don't know where to put our stop right now, right? All the way below that downward trend line, but we know that's not going to work risk to reward.
You can't do that. You'd have to do it right there.
And so that's the issue that I tend to have with the symmetricals. And like I said, everybody's got their own way to.
Either way, Autodesk is most likely getting vetoed.
Well, I don't think this is a trade. Honestly, I'm not going to bring it to the scan report meeting because I think it needs another week, one way or another, whether it's the break pullback or back into that triangle. But I do think when you have a pattern that's developed, I don't think this is any different than a 6-month breakout on Visa, to be quite blunt. How we trade it might be, right, what we want to see before we get into it. But as far as the potential that the pattern yields, I don't think it's any different than a traditional breakout. So I do think it's one you want on your radar.